Welcome to this edition of News Today, a series in which we discuss and briefly analyze the important news of the day. Let's have a look at today's main headlines. The Union External Affairs Minister states that dual citizenship is a challenge in India. India and Russia sign pacts on the construction of future power units of the Kudankulam nuclear power plant. The Reserve Bank of India releases the report on trend and progress of banking in India 2022-23. The Reserve Bank of India allows lending and borrowing of government securities. Supreme Court states that tribunals cannot direct government to frame policy. The government extends the Bharatmala Phase 1 deadline by 6 years to 2027-28. Starting with today's first news, the Union External Affairs Minister stated that dual citizenship is a challenge in India. So first, let's know what dual citizenship exactly means. Dual or multiple citizenship grants an individual legal status as a citizen of two or more countries simultaneously. There are a multitude of benefits associated with such citizenship, as it allows an individual to hold passports of both countries and participate in their political affairs. Further, the individual can obtain visa exemptions for travel and engage in employment in either nation. A number of countries across the world offer dual citizenship, like the United States, Finland, Albania, Israel, and Pakistan. However, the Indian Constitution prohibits dual citizenship for its nationals. Instead, India provides an alternative to dual citizens in the form of Overseas Citizenship of India program to persons of Indian origin, except those who migrated to Pakistan and Bangladesh. Foreign nationals who are eligible to apply for Overseas Citizenship of India include a person who was eligible to become a citizen of India on 26 January 1950, a person who was a citizen of India on or at any time after 26 January 1950, and a person who is a child, a grandchild, or a great-grandchild of such citizens. The Overseas Citizenship of India card holders can avail several benefits in India like multi-purpose, multiple entry, lifelong visa for visiting India, exemption from registration with local police authority for any length of stay in India, and parity with non-resident Indians in respect of economic, financial, and education fields except in matters relating to the acquisition of agricultural or plantation properties. Moving on to the next news, India and Russia signed pacts on the construction of future power units of the Kudankulam nuclear power plant. The move was announced after the meeting of the External Affairs Minister of India with the Deputy Prime Minister of Russia. Notably, other agreements in the areas of medicines, pharmaceutical substances, and medical devices were also signed. Now let's know more about the Kudankulam nuclear power plant. It is India's largest nuclear power plant built in Tamil Nadu with the technical assistance of Russia. In phase 1 of the project, 2 units with 1000 megawatt capacity were constructed, and an additional 4 units are under construction in the second and third phases of the project, which are expected to be completed by the year 2027. The power plant is an important part of India's nuclear power program. So let's take a closer look at it. India started its commercial nuclear power production in the year 1969 with a nuclear power program conceived in 3 sequential stages. In the first stage, pressurized heavy water reactors are used to produce energy from natural uranium. These reactors also produce fissile plutonium-239. In the second stage, fast breeder reactors fueled by plutonium-239 are used to produce energy and more of plutonium-239. In this stage, the reactor produces more fissile material than it consumes. In the final third stage, plutonium-239 recovered from the second stage in combination with thorium-232 produces energy and uranium-233. Uranium-233 would then be used as fuel. Talking about uranium, natural uranium as found in Earth's crust is a mixture largely of 2 isotopes. The uranium-238 accounts for 99.3% and the uranium-235 for about 0.7%. Low enriched uranium contains a uranium-235 concentration between 0.711% and 20% and is used for energy production. Highly enriched uranium, on the other hand, contains a uranium-235 concentration greater than 20% and is used in naval propulsion reactors and nuclear weapons. Moving on, the Reserve Bank of India released the report on trend and progress of banking in India 2022-23. The report is a statutory publication which is in compliance with Section 36(2) of the Banking Regulation Act of 1949. It presents the performance of the banking sector in India during 2022-23 and 2023-24 so far. Now let's take a look at key highlights of the report. According to the report, the gross non-performing assets ratio of Indian scheduled commercial banks fell to a decadal low of 3.9% at the end of March 2023. Also, the consolidated balance sheet of the scheduled commercial banks notably grew by 12.2% in 2022-23, which is the highest in 9 years. Further, in 2022-23, the combined balance sheets of urban cooperative banks expanded by 2.3%, while that of non-banking financial companies expanded by 14.8%. The report, however, also raised some concerns like lack of asset diversification and geographical concentration of small finance banks, concentration risk of corporate credit in non-banking financial companies, and significant exposure of banks to these companies, and concerns related to long tenure of directors, absence of comprehensive risk management policy, and deficient compliance culture in urban cooperative banks. The report has also presented a number of recommendations to overcome these issues. According to the report, quality of governance of cooperative banks should be strengthened based on 3 pillars of compliance, risk management, and internal audit. Further, non-banking financial companies should focus on broad-basing their funding sources and reduce over-dependence on bank funding. The report also recommends capital adequacy framework accounting for risks to small finance banks.
Moving on, the Reserve Bank of India has allowed lending and borrowing of government securities. The permission came out by the implementation of the Government Securities Lending Directions 2023. Government securities lending involves the lending of eligible government securities by the owner to a borrower for a fee. The borrower provides collateral in the form of other government securities, and the transaction occurs for a specified period. Under government securities lending, government securities issued by the central government, excluding treasury bills, are eligible for lending and borrowing. Additionally, government securities issued by the central government, including treasury bills and state governments' bonds, are eligible for use as collateral. The objectives of permitting lending and borrowing of government securities include adding depth and liquidity to GSEC market, facilitating efficient price discovery, expanding participation in the securities lending market by investors, and enhancing the operational efficiency of government bonds, particularly for insurers. Government securities are tradable instruments issued by the central or state governments, acknowledging the government's debt obligation. These securities can be short-term, such as treasury bills with maturities of less than 1 year, or long-term as government bonds, or dated securities with maturities of 1 year or more. Government securities are considered risk-free gilt-edged instruments as they carry practically no risk of default. Moving ahead, Supreme Court states that tribunals cannot direct government to frame policy. The Supreme Court has set aside a directive from the Armed Forces Tribunal instructing the government to formulate a policy for the appointment of Judge Advocate General. The court ruled that a tribunal, subject to the jurisdiction of a High Court under Article 226 of the Constitution, cannot be permitted by law to direct framing of policy by government. Furthermore, the court asserted that policy making falls outside the domain of the judiciary. Tribunals are quasi-judicial bodies established for the purpose of reducing the caseload of the judiciary or bringing in subject expertise for technical matters. These were incorporated by the Act of Parliament under Article 323A or 323B through 42nd Amendment Act 1976 on the recommendation of the Swarna Singh Committee. Article 323A deals with administrative tribunals and Article 323B deals with tribunals for other matters. Tribunals, whether falling under Article 323A or 323B, must adhere to the principles of natural justice and are vested with powers of a civil court. In the case of L. Chandrakumar versus Union of India in 1997, the court ruled that the orders of tribunals are subject to the writ jurisdiction of high courts. There are also some concerns related to tribunals, which includes the non-filing of vacancies or delays in appointment, especially of technical members, short tenure of members, which affects the independence of tribunals, and executive interference in making appointments. Tribunals play a crucial role in reducing the backlog of cases in courts, enhancing the efficiency of the judicial system, and ensuring a faster, less expensive, and decentralized delivery of justice. Their expertise and specialization in technical matters also contributes to the overall effectiveness of the legal framework. Moving on to the next news. The government has extended the Bharatmala Phase 1 deadline by 6 years to 2027 to 2028. The Bharatmala Pariyojana, launched under the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways, is an umbrella program for the highways sector. The Phase 1 of the project was approved in 2017 to focus on bridging critical infrastructure gaps through development of 34,800 kilometers of national highways by 2022. As of November 2023, 42% of work has been completed under the project. First, let's start by understanding the components of Bharatmala Phase 1. It encompasses various components designed to enhance India's connectivity infrastructure. These components include the economic corridors spanning 9,000 kilometers aimed to unlock the nation's full economic potential, the inter-corridor and feeder routes covering 6,000 kilometers to focus on holistic connectivity. National Corridors Efficiency Improvement over 5,000 kilometers strives to enhance overall efficiency. The Border Roads and International Connectivity component spanning 2,000 kilometers aims to boost border connectivity. Coastal roads and port connectivity, totaling 2,000 kilometers, leverage ports for progress. Greenfield expressways covering 800 kilometers are dedicated to achieving express speeds for express gains. Lastly, the Balance NHDP works spanning 10,000 kilometers contribute to all-round connectivity. The overarching objectives of the Bharatmala Pariyojana include optimizing the efficiency of both freight and passenger movement across the country by bridging critical infrastructure gaps. Additionally, the initiative aims to enhance connectivity in the Northeast and improve the efficiency of existing corridors through the development of multimodal logistics parks. To achieve these objectives, the Bharatmala Pariyojana incorporates advanced features such as satellite mapping of corridors to identify upgradation requirements, technology-driven automated traffic surveys at more than 1,500 points, and in-depth origin and destination study of freight movement across 600 districts. Now let's understand what are the gaps in highway infrastructure. Identifying and addressing the gaps in the highway infrastructure is crucial for the success of Bharatmala Phase 1. Some of these gaps include the inadequacy in optimizing the national highway network and road network due to resource constraints and the absence of a national plan. Integrated planning in the connectivity of major corridors and ports with the hinterland has been lacking. Presence of congestion points with multiple points of local congestion present even on already developed corridors, and lack of accidents response infrastructure. The place in news for today is Malaysia with its capital Kuala Lumpur. The Cabinet has approved a Memorandum of Understanding for cooperation between Prasar Bharati and Radio Television Malaysia. Let's start by first understanding the political features of the country. Malaysia lies in the southeastern part of Asia. It is composed of two non-contiguous regions. Peninsular Malaysia or West Malaysia is on the Malay Peninsula, and East Malaysia or Malaysia Timur is on the island of Borneo. Malaysia shares its border with Thailand, Singapore, Indonesia and Brunei. Its bordering water bodies are the Strait of Malacca and South China Sea. Now talking about its geographical features, the country lies just north of the equator. Its major rivers are Pahang, Rajang and Kinabalu, and its highest point is Gunung Kinabalu.
As we conclude today's main news, let's go through some quick updates. The government has launched 6 Samarth curated training programs on IGOT Karmyogi platform for state government officials. These programs aim to elevate the skills and competencies of government officials, ensuring they are well equipped to meet the evolving needs of governance. The 6th edition of the Smart India Hackathon was recently held. It is an initiative of the Government of India to help various government departments, private organizations get solutions for some of their pressing problems through students. Cabinet approved the Migration and Mobility Agreement between India and Italy. The agreement would enhance people-to-people contacts, foster mobility of students, skilled workers, business people and young professionals, and strengthen cooperation on an irregular migration between two sides. Scientists have discovered an ancient underwater mountain range hidden within the world's strongest ocean current, the Antarctic Circumpolar Current. It was observed in the area of the Southern Ocean. The Antarctic Circumpolar Current is the only current that flows completely around the globe. The Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs has approved an increase in minimum support price for copra for 2024 season. Copra refers to the dried coconut kernels from which coconut oil is expelled. Lantana is one of the worst invasive species in the world and a species of high concern for India. It is a tropical American shrub that was introduced in India as an ornamental plant by the British in the 1800s. It threatens around 40% of India's tiger range. Ammonia gas was leaked from an underwater supply pipeline to an industrial unit in Chennai's and North Tamil Nadu. Ammonia is a colorless and pungent gas composed of nitrogen and hydrogen. It is very corrosive and damages human cells. Research has been conducted to understand how Huntington's disease progresses at the molecular level. Huntington disease is an inherited disorder that causes nerve cells in parts of the brain to gradually break down and die. Before we go, it's time to put your knowledge to the test in today's segment of Test Your Learning. Thank you for joining us. We hope you've enjoyed this edition of News Today. To get the answers to today's quiz and to download the PDF of News Today, make sure to check out the links in the description below.